Hey, it's Ethan here at etrailer. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Hollywood Rack Sport Rider SE Hitch Bike Rack, how it fits on our 2022 Chrysler Pacifica. This is going to be an affordable option that's going to be able to get up to 80 pounds per bike where you need it to go. It's a platform style rack. That means it holds the bike up primarily with these trays and cradles down here at the bottom. We have our frame hooks here on the middle, and we have one strap on either tire, one in the front, one in the back. So it holds our bike very securely, but it does make frame contact. So we wouldn't recommend using this with a carbon frame bike just because it could potentially damage your frame while you're driving. But it should work for most alternative frames just because it does go all the way down that center mast. But you may have to pick up something like a bike adapter bar to make those work. The rack does have a lot of features, first and foremost being the fact that we can tilt the rack away with the bikes loaded up, which does take a few steps to do. First being removing this clip here from this side, lift up on the rack just a little bit, and then pull the pin out the other side just like that. It'll just hang down onto that cable, and then we'll pull this top lever here, and from there the rack will tilt. It's not super aggressive, which is probably good in the event that you do have two 80-pound bikes on here, but we've already tested this out, and if we try to open up the hatch, we'll make contact with this pedal pretty much right away. And I don't want to risk damaging the hatch on this vehicle, but we do want to tell you that you do have that ability to tilt it away. And if you need to, for whatever reason, get back there, now would be a good time to do that. But for now, I'm just going to tilt the rack back up. It clicks into place, and now I'll replace that pin and the clip. If we want full hatch access, we're going to have to remove our bike, so we can move on to that now. First thing I'm going to do is start removing these straps here on the wheels. So just press this button, pull the strap through. The straps are rubberized, so they're really nice, they're really long, able to accommodate up to 5-inch tires, and they do have a pad on there to protect our tires. I like to just kind of fold those out of the way. Moving down to the back tire here, same process, press the button, release the strap, find somewhere to tuck it out of the way. Now we'll hold on to our bike, press the buttons on the frame hooks, and get those up and off. The frame hook also does have a lock core on there, so in the event that we want to keep our bikes a little more secure, we can lock those up. You won't be able to press the button, and you won't be able to get the bike off. But for now, I am just going to lift the bike around. One of the problems with the fact that we can't remove these hooks all the way off is the fact that we are a little close to the car here, so if I want to get the bike removed, I'm going to kind of have to work around it. You can maybe be a little bit more strategic on where you put the pedals, making sure that they're in front of the mast, but it's not too terrible, and we'll get the bike away. With our bike out of the way, we're going to get our center mast folded down. So we'll start by pulling this pin. We have to make sure that we line up this point on the pin with the outcrop that's on the center mast. Make sure we line those up, and then we can fold the center mast down. Those holes will line up again, same thing, and replace that. Now our center mast is out of the way. I mentioned the hoops or the cradles a little bit earlier. We can accommodate, again, a 5-inch wide tire. If we loosen up these hand knobs, we do have the ability to slide the cradles up and down the tray to accommodate a maximum wheelbase of up to 60 inches. There is also an adapter to get some smaller tires on here as well, so you can look out for that. But from here, that would be the point now where we'd be able to access our hatch. So I'll just show you that real quick. We have tons of room now with the bike removed, and now would be the opportunity to get anything out of the back that you might need for your ride before or afterwards. It is unfortunate that the tilt doesn't get us quite enough room, but the hatch on our Pacifica is pretty big, so not a ton of racks that we've tested have had that ability. From here though, I'm going to grab a couple measurements. First being the total length added on from the bumper to the furthest point back of the rack. In this case, that's going to come in at just about 27 inches. As far as ground clearance goes, we do have a decent rise in the shank. So in the back here, we're sitting up about 16 inches from there, closer to 16.5 to the bottom of our cradles. But the Pacifica doesn't sit super high up. I'm not going to be terribly worried about ground clearance, but it's something you might want to watch out for. As far as how heavy or how high you're going to have to lift those heavy bikes, that's going to be closer to around 18.5 inches. So if you end up getting 80-pound bikes, it sits low enough that I'm not going to be super worried about how high I have to lift those. If we want to save a little bit of space though, we can fold the rack up. This time we don't have to pull the pin and the clip, but we will have to pull both of these. So we'll start with this one, and then the bottom one. You hear it again click into place, and I'll get that new measurement to see how much space we've actually saved. So now from the bumper to the furthest point out, it's going to be about 12.5 inches. So we cut down our space total in about half, and it sits pretty far away. There's a little bit of up and down movement just right there with those, where this point is on the shank, but not close enough that I'm going to be worried about it making contact there. In this position, we could take a look at what it's going to cover up on the back of the vehicle. So it's a really open design here. We have full visibility of our license plate. Our backup camera is right here in the middle too. You're probably going to be able to see the rack out of the very bottom of the backup camera, but again, tons of room there. One thing about the Sport Rider SE is that because of the wheelbase and how it's so wide, as you can see over here, these cradles do extend pretty wide, not past the total width of the vehicle, but depending on where you end up putting your bikes and how large they are, they do have the ability to get far enough that they will stick out past the width of your vehicle, so definitely keep that in mind. But we are still short enough that we're not interfering with our taillights at all, and nowhere near our rear window. The rack uses a 2-inch shank to fit into our 2-inch hitch receiver. It's held in place by this pin and this lock. It's going to be key-to-like to those frame locks we talked about earlier. It's got this welded collar on, so we know exactly where to stop it in the receiver. And it's all held in place by this anti-rattle handle here in the back. Just make sure when you tighten that down to leave it horizontal or at least somewhat upwards, so we're not taking away from that ground clearance. Overall, if you're looking for a bike rack that's going to be able to accommodate pretty much any bike you want to throw on that, whether it's electric, large mountain bike, fat tire bikes, again, not a carbon frame bike if you don't want to risk damaging the frame while you're moving, but pretty much every other bike, this is going to be a really solid option with all of those features that we listed in the video. That being said, if you do have some really heavy bikes and you need a little bit of help loading and unloading them, you can check out something like the Yakima on-ramp. It does have an integrated ramp that stores right on the rack, which is just going to help you load and unload those heavier bikes should you choose to use them. But if you don't need any help with that, this is a really solid option. Again, this is a quick look at the Hollywood Rack Sport Rider SE Hitch Bike Rack and how it fits on our 2022 Chrysler Pacifica.